Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. Sometimes we run into content creators that we just know we're going to click with. When I was invited on BiggerPockets, they actually called my episode The Lazy Person's Guide to Financial Freedom. So when I saw the name of April Crossley's channel, Lazy Girl REI, I thought, I'm going to have to check this out. And something that I noticed in her strategy is how she diversifies. One of the things I really like is looking at Warren Buffett, who talks about diversification as the key to everything, and that an average investor needs to have a diversified index portfolio. But his partner, Charlie Munger, kind of threw a wrench into the works when he said, don't diversify. He said to focus on one asset class until you master it and become wealthy, and then use diversification to protect your wealth. So that's what I've done. And at the end of this video, I'll kind of touch on how I've done that. But April, I'm really impressed with what you're doing, and I can't wait to hear what brought you to the current state of diversification you use in your real estate investing.
Yeah, happy to talk about that. And I love it. And I recommend diversifying in real estate to everybody. I feel like people tend to go down one path, and you don't just have to be on one path in real estate investing. When I started, you have to think about, where do you need to start? So when I started, I didn't have good credit and I had no money. So it's not like I could buy rental properties, and everybody was talking about flipping houses to pay off debt. And I needed to pay off college debt from my college loans. So to me, I was like, that makes great sense for me. I'm going to flip houses. And people make it out like it's some glorious thing. Like, you flip these houses, it's so fun, it's glorious. It's really not. When I meet people that have never flipped a house, I'm like, you are so lucky. Just keep buying rentals. So when we started flipping houses, I paid off all of my college debt, learned about credit and how to put yourself in good financial standing, and then started just learning from people that were way smarter than me that the only true path to wealth is to hold cash flowing rental property. And that really stuck with me. The more you learn about growing wealth, the more you realize I have to build a portfolio. So we were then flipping rentals, or flipping houses and buying rentals. We had money up from flipping that a bank could look at when they were doing a cash out refinance on a rental, because we buy on the BRRRR strategy with private money. During this time, I was raising more private money, and that's primarily what I do today, is raise capital. And I met with a private money lender that asked me what else I invested in other than real estate. And I told him I have like a IRA through Morgan Stanley. And he started asking me all these questions about what are you invested in? I'm like, I don't know. I just give my money to this Morgan Stanley guy. So he started digging deeper and asking me about my work history. And I used to work in healthcare for 13 years. So he was saying, well, did you ever change jobs? And I was like, yeah, quite a few times, And he's like, well, what did you do with your retirement account from healthcare? I'm like, I don't know. It's just, where does it go? I'm not really sure. Like, I didn't know where my retirement, I'm like, I assume it's still sitting there at that hospital or wherever it sits. And he's like, why are you not leveraging your Roth IRA and your old retirement accounts and investing in real estate with them? And I was like, the first question out of my mouth was just like, is that even legal? Like, I'm like, this sounds illegal. Like, how do you use that to invest in real estate? And he said to me, you can be a private lender via self-directed IRA. Now, I had been working with private lenders on my flips, on my rental properties, never could think big enough to think I can probably be a private lender, because people don't really talk about private lending a lot or self-directed IRAs a lot. They just talk about flipping and buying rentals. That's kind of like primarily what you hear about in real estate investing. And I had taken some courses, and that's all I was hearing. So I rolled over my Roth IRA and all my old retirement accounts, which some were only like $4,000 and some were more than that, and combined them into a self-directed IRA. And I started private lending. Once I started private lending, I was like, wow, this is really nice, because someone else is looking for all the deals and doing all the work, and all they're sending me is a summary of the deal package. And all I'm doing is filling out paperwork and wiring money and making this great return back into my bank account. So as soon as I started doing it, I was instantly hooked. Like, I want to be the biggest private lender I can be. And that's still my goal to this day. So now I flip houses still buy small multifamily rentals and have a portfolio of those. I private lend, and via private lending met more people that are way smarter than me that are like, hey, you already work with all these private lenders. So did you know, like, now that you're making more money, you have to pay all these taxes. And if you would invest in syndications, you could get tax deductions. And I was like, what? So I started learning about that because I definitely needed tax deductions at this point. And a few years ago, started passively investing into syndications. And even my accountant, the first syndication I invested in, he came back to me and was like, because you invested in this thing, you're getting like X amount of tax write-off, and it is huge. I'm like, I know, someone way smarter than me told me to do that. So we started passively investing in syndications, and then via that met more people and just started actively partnering on syndications as well. So we do a little bit of everything, which I recommend to everyone, because I tell everyone, although maybe not the house flipping thing. Like right now I own 2 house flipping companies, but they fund my private lending business. So they give me basically liquid capital to buy larger projects. My multifamily portfolio, this is just my avenue and how I do things, but I don't touch any of the cash flow. To me, that is my retirement. When I'm burnout, I don't want to do anything real estate anymore. Then I'll start living off of that cash flow. But currently I don't live off of it. It just stacks up in an account, and my flip business funds all my other ventures in real estate.
I like it when people ask, what is your savings rate? And if your savings rate isn't 100%, then you still need that job. So if you're not living off of the income from those rentals and it's building the investment pile for the next investment, that pile of money, that investing strategy can support itself. And I think it's really great that you're using the money from retirement accounts to produce cash flow. A lot of people put money into a retirement account and then they think, okay, so when I'm 59 and a half, that money will be there. I hope I'm in a lower tax bracket so my taxes will be less, because taxes go down in the future, right? That's the thing they're hoping for. And they're hoping to retire broke in a lower tax bracket. But using that money now, like myself, I emptied my retirement accounts out in 2020 when the pandemic hit and the CARES Act said you could take it out without paying a penalty. I thought, well, should it be locked up for a decade, or can I put it to work in a rental property and get cash flow appreciation, principal pay down? And so it was a no-brainer for me. Yeah. We invest in kind of similar assets. I'm primarily focused on small multifamily. A lot of people talk about using the BRRRR method or flipping to get into real estate because they think it's a way to do it without needing a lot of capital. But there's so many ways a person can mess up a flip or a BRRRR with the after repair value, the time it takes to do the rehab, the cost of the rehab, that I don't think it's the best strategy to start with. Kind of like you said, maybe don't recommend that to everybody. Once you have a portfolio, once you have cash flow that can support your mistakes, even Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time waited to do flipping until he had already reached financial freedom. So I really like that. And I like that if you're making money from a rental portfolio and you're making money from a flipping company and you're making money from private lending, it would take a series of catastrophic events to impact your ability to not need a job. And that's my goal with investing in real estate, is to make work optional. And here's the 2 investing strategies that I use. One is I diversify my portfolio. So you invest in small multifamily, I do the same. I don't want a 20-unit apartment complex that draws all of its tenants from the same sources. So if Boeing or Amazon move away or a base closes down, you could lose all of your tenants. Mine are all about 10 miles apart, small multifamily where I'm drawing from different sources. I make sure they're close to multiple economic drivers. So a base, a port, a college, a hospital, so that's several sources of tenants. And then I diversify my tenant base. I should have asked, do you self-manage your small multifamily, or do you have property management?
I self-manage. The majority of them are in my home market and they're self-managed. And that's not by choice. That's after, there's just a severe lack of any professional management. There's just a real lack. Self-manage, I say that I travel the United States full-time my RV. So I self-manage, but I have systems in place that I'm very removed from it. Yeah. I'm the same way. I self-manage. I only have 16 units. I travel a lot. My job has me going everywhere. I like to take
Recently, it's been a month a year to go somewhere, but I'm upping that to 3 months to travel to like Thailand or Colombia. And it's those
Cool.
systems. Have a couple of handymen in place. I use the Thumbtack app to find contractors. Once you've worked with contractors, I've got a plumber and a roofer, and it's just phone calls and emails. Maybe not even phone calls, text messages and emails.
Mm-hmm.
And I did the math the other day. A property manager, if I had zero turnover in 2020, would have cost me $21,000.
Wow.
It takes me about 2 hours a month to self-manage. So I'm making about $850 an hour. I will keep self-managing. And then we're making a video for your channel today on how I get tenants to request a rent increase. I haven't found any property management company that gets that to happen yet. So for now, I'm still going to self-manage too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if I do buy in my area, which I haven't done in a long time, I've been buying stuff in other states and partnering on things, we would create our own internal management company. We would hire internally and just train someone internally to do it.
Right. I've looked at doing that with a couple of other investors where the three of us would hire one or two people. Mm-hmm. That person's job would be to manage our property. So that is a possibility in the future.
Yes.
The other way and to go back to diversification, I diversify my tenants. I like to keep an average of about 1/3 military, 1/3 Section 8, and 1/3 working or retired. So a prolonged government shutdown or a pandemic or a stock market crash doesn't impact my whole portfolio. Mm-hmm. And anytime I say this, some people will say, well, you can't say you only want military in your unit, or you can't say you only take Section 8, but you can control how you advertise. If I want military tenants, I advertise on base. If I want Section 8, I call the housing authority. And it keeps an average balance. So I'm going to kind of recap what I've seen for the way that you invest. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And then tell me what's the next step. So you start out with flipping. You realize that buy and hold is the way to go. So you build a portfolio. You start looking at syndications as a way to put money to work that takes even less of your time. You become a private money lender, initially from your retirement accounts, but then you're using the cash flow from rental properties to fund that, or your flipping business to fund that. And I've seen on your channel that you are now looking at mobile home parks, and there was something else, larger apartment complexes, I think you were looking at. So what is next in your investing strategy?
So really next is impact investing. I mean, I live a comfortable life and it's been really fun doing all this stuff in real estate, but I have a strong calling to do something more with purpose. So that's what brought us into mobile home parks, was just looking into affordable housing options. And we're really digging deep into impact investing, which is we're working on like creating senior affordable housing, either via redeveloping buildings or building duplexes, handicap accessible duplexes. So that's a dream I've had for a few years that I now feel like I have the time and space to tackle. So that's what's next for us.
That is amazing. Not too long ago, I did a video with Michael Zuber and Matt, the lumberjack landlord, asking how much is enough. And for some people, it's a passive cash flow so they don't have to work. For other people, it's to support an extravagant lifestyle. But for most investors, it's once you have enough to cover your own needs, you figure out that you can help someone else. And if the more money you're making means the more people you can help, there really is no number that is enough. So if you can start doing things like impact investing, that's awesome.
I watched this documentary called The United States of Tents, and it was pretty cool. It talks about people that have done it already. And the one investor just said something like, I built this whole community, but I had so much of my own money out of pocket that I make no return on, but it's okay because I wanted to build this community. And I want to be in that position. That's what drives me to just say, does it make sense to build a senior housing affordable community? Will I make a ton of money off of it? Probably not, but this is what I want to do because this is what I'm being called to do. I want to build this community for seniors, and I want to be able to say, okay, I put $1 million into it. I'm not getting any return out of it. And that's okay because it's serving a higher purpose. That's really what is fulfilling, not like the number of flips a year, the number of units, like none of that fulfills me. It actually bores me when people talk about that stuff. I'm like, tell me what your higher purpose is that you're working towards all this. What is your why?
It's awesome because once you reach financial freedom, you can really focus on that type of dream. So many people are trapped in that 40 to 60 hour a week job that they can't escape. They're wiped out energy wise when they get home. And so they feel that lack of purpose because they're really just providing an income source for their employer instead of impacting their community the way that they probably want to.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough for coming on here today and sharing your information. We have very different investing strategies in the same asset class. And that's really what I wanted to share with people. If somebody wants to reach out and has questions for you, how can they get a hold of you?
Best way is via email, april@lazygirlrei.com. And I have a Facebook group, RVREI.
Awesome. And I watched a lot of your videos over this last year as you guys have been traveling all over the country and running your business. That's been incredible.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No, and someday I'm probably going to buy an RV and travel all over the country. And when that happens, I'm going to reach out and have some questions for you.
Definitely. I can fill you in let you know what all the ropes are to it. Yeah. You're going to love it. I tell everyone that's the whole like higher purpose thing too, not to get off on a tangent, but I tell everyone the best thing you're ever going to do in your life is sell everything. I didn't sell my building. So when I say sell everything, I mean personal. I sold my house. I sold most of my belongings, donated them or got rid of them, and left in an RV for a year to go experience the way other people live. And it's so good for your creativity. More than anything, it makes you very, very grateful, very, very grateful for the smallest things. It is a life-changing experience to just leave everything behind and go travel. Life-changing. Highly recommend.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to do that, but not today. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.